So now I want to show how to put like a little cuff on the bottom. To make it even, I'm going to mark both where my seam is and then exactly on the opposite side so I can make my gatherings even on the piece I'm going to put it. So I got that there, and then I'm going to, sometimes I'll mark like the center, like one more here as well. And then I'm going to gather these up. Okay, and I'm going to gather that up to fit this here. So I'm going to, this is a piece that was a rectangle. It's twice as wide this way, what I want the finished amount to be plus seam allowance, and then it's the width around plus the seam allowance. So I press this really nicely first. I always press the seam open, and then when I do, I fold it in half. When I do this, I have like this finished bottom. So if this were wider, this could be stitched onto like the bottom of, you know, a whole garment or sweatshirt. That's kind of how sweatshirts are finished, is like this, but much wider, and it's stitched across the bottom, and then it's got a nice edge on it. So I'm going to take this to put sort of a cuff on this piece here. So first thing I want to do is I want to be able to stitch it together. So and I want these to be right sides together. So I've got my little tube that's twice as long as what I want it to be when it's finished, plus seam allowance, and then I'm going to line this up. So here's my seam allowance here, and I'm going to line that up with the seam allowance on this shiny fabric. And I'm going to line that up and put a pin in it. And then I'm going to take the opposite side that I put a pin in the other side so I know where the halfway mark is. And I'm going to fold this to find the halfway mark, which is here. And I'm going to put that on there. So right now I'm just with one layer. And I'm going to pin that together, and that will stay in place. And then I can kind of straighten this out, and I can adjust my gathers so that they're evenly across this space. I'm actually going to turn it inside out because that's easier to do. So I'm going to turn it inside out like this so I can stitch it. And I'll show you over on the sewing machine how we do it. So I've got it turned inside out, so the gathering is in the middle, and I'm going around the circle, and I'm going to set it in here and stitch it. Got it? But I want them to see like how this,
okay.
That this is like this, and I'm going around. It's actually a really nice way to stitch around a circle, and most students don't know how to do it. Okay, so then I have, this is all stitched into this. Ooh, look, it's like a little skirt. Or I can fold it up inside like this, and on the inside, fold it in half. And then if I turn the seam allowances down inside so that the seam allowance goes down, and then that traps that in there. I could flip it under too, but I'm just going to do it this way to show it to you. So I flip seam allowance in like that, and I can do it from this side. Okay. So So I'm pushing this underneath, I'm pushing the seam allowance down. I'm pushing it in place and folding it so it's all real nice. And then this goes here. And I could either go through this, the pins don't really like this fabric. I can either go through and like stitch in the ditch, or I could top stitch here. It could be sort of the bottom of a skirt, you know, and then it comes up, you know, comes up like that. It could be a skirt that's this way. Just think of the scale changing. It could be a bunch of different things. It could be a skirt, it could be a sleeve. So the structure is the same regardless, it's just what it is. So one other thing I want to show you really quick is this little thing called a bubble skirt, which it isn't just for dresses. You could do it anytime you want to puff something up. Like if you look at the pants from medieval, the men wore these things called pumpkin hose that like poofed out over the side. The structure is basically the same. There's a tube inside, there's something puffy and full on the outside, and the tube inside is shorter. That's what makes it puff out. This is another way to make that happen. But bubble dresses that you see, I don't know if they're popular anymore, but they were for a while, that they were basically that same construction. So what I'm gonna do is you basically start with this sort of thing, this cuff on the bottom of a full thing, and what I'm gonna do is stick another tube inside of that, and the tube is the same size as the cuff on the bottom, and then if you can shorten it, and it'll make the rest of it bubble out. So I'll show you what it looks like. If you go back in and look at the slide, you'll see there's a number of like bubble dresses in there, and they're made this construction as a whole dress. But this almost looked like a sleeve just because of the way I've done it. I'll put some pleats in here and we'll see how that. Again is, so you can see the drape that it holds all by itself, just by the pleats, something to hold together the fullness in at the top, something to hold at the bottom. And this could be short, it could be not even there. You don't even have to have a hanging cuff. The main thing is that you have a shortened sleeve inside of it that it does that. The shorter and the more I cut the sleeve down, the inner tube, the more it will drape. So I'm gonna do one more where I cut it down farther. So that one's even drippier than the other one was. That's cool, right? Can you see that? And then this could even go, you could do this much, much smaller, or it could be much longer and you have a long sleeve that came out. It looks like a sleeve now, but that could totally be a dress too, or a skirt, or a hat. Put it on like this. Anyway. Anything, you just don't, it could go anywhere. It's just a structure. Change the scale, change the materials, make it smaller, make it larger, and you could just imagine, you know, where these things might be able to go. Make some big earrings and stuff. So, okay, that's it.